Okay, so ask yourself right now, what is all of this really about? Is this really the world you want to live in? Is this the world you want your children to grow up in? Look, technology is great. I love technology. I use it all the time. Too much being isolated. How do you think I learned these things? I'm not telling you anything that's devoid of my own experiences as well. All right, I can give you the textbook, the science, I can go ad infinitum down that rabbit hole. But what I'm really telling you is what I also have tested and learned through my own personal experience. I've done both. I'm not armed with one or the other, which is what this society generally teaches people to do, just by the nature of how it works and how most people operate. They either operate completely solely on their own experiences, devoid of any understanding or knowledge from, science or worldview, or they're fully on the scientific side, the worldview side. Everything is through that lens. And even that is divided out, right? So you've got people that, if you believe in spiritual stuff, you can't be scientific. Then you got religious folks that tell you, science is totally contradictory to any belief in God or spiritual stuff. That's all like myth. They're both wrong. That's part of the binary simulacrum, right? So then you got people on the other side, right? The experiential, emotive people, that everything is sensory, right? Everything is tactile. If they don't see it, feel it, whatever, it doesn't exist, right? And they think they're different than the other folks, right? They think they're more higher evolved because they think they've got more emotional IQ, right? Both are mirror images of one another. Both point at the other and think they're better than the other and project themselves onto the other. And then within their own segments, people do that to one another as well. So the experiential only people, right, can't get along with themselves or others. And the scientific, analytical, or worldview, theological, academic folks as well, they can't get along with one another either. And then, of course, everything's divided up further. So you got political point of view, right? So people are drawn off into these directions. They're drawn off into these perspectives. And it's morphological. Better words like polymorphic, right? And so what that means is it's ever changing, right? But what they think is they think they're completely solid. They think that they are absolutely standing on solid ground on both sides. Neither one of them are. But you can't tell them that because they accuse you of the very things they're doing, because they think that who are you to tell them anything? You're arrogant. All they're really doing is projecting their own pride and arrogance onto you. There is a reason why we say things like, broad is the path to destruction. There's a reason why we have the phrase, take the path least traveled. Stay to the middle, right? The way is narrow. Come to the middle ground, which you often hear me say. There's a reason why I say that. There's a reason why it is I'm constantly trying to give you tools and things to think about. It's in my interests that, one, if I'm wrong about something, truly wrong about something, I need to know it. You have something I could learn from. I can learn from you. But if you're unwilling to have that conversation, what you're doing is you're denying not only yourself, but you're denying others the gifts and talents and the understanding that you have on things. Because instead, you're choosing the simulacrum, the simulation, right? The fake, in order to appease others that in many cases you don't even like. You'd have no relationship with, and you really would never have a relationship with them because down deep you despise them too. But for whatever reason, you're afraid of what they may think. You're a slave to them. But what you really are is you're a slave to your own insecurities, your own fears, your own pride. It always boils down to pride in every single one of us. Now notice, I included myself. Only a fool can say that they are without pride or without any fault. The Bible would say, on that day, no one will be able to stand before him and say they were without sin unless they're a liar. We all, like sheep, have gone astray, right? You've heard those things before, right? You can't say that now, right? Because people might get upset. They might think you're not intelligent, right? They might think that you don't have, you're not evolved. Or, it might cost you something, like, their fake respect for you, which isn't real in the first place. Look, folks, if you want to live in a real world, you have to first get real with yourself. You have to be real with others. Okay? Everybody's not going to like you. Does it suck? Yeah, it sucks. There are people I used to be close to. They can't stand me. They think I'm an arrogant prick. Well, sometimes I am. And when I am, I can't get away with it very long because it makes me feel like crap. I'm willing to learn from my mistakes, and so I take responsibility for it. What's interesting is the people that often are the fastest to accuse people like me and you almost never take responsibility for their own actions. Now that should tell you something, all right? It's one thing if it's somebody that will. That's iron sharpening iron. That's good for both of you. It's a two-way street. It's quite another if somebody is always putting their crap on you, right? While they're ignoring their own. Okay? If they're going to point out the speck in your eye and ignore the forest in their own, well, a big windstorm's going to come along and knock their damn forest down and sit them in the dirt. That's the way things work here. If you're going to help somebody and help them the right way, you need to make sure that you are where you need to be in your life and have the discernment so that you absolutely, are humble enough to realize that you may not know how to best help them. And it will temper how you deal with others. In other cases, you will absolutely know how to help them. You've been through it. You've seen it. You've seen it in yourself, right? And when others came to you, like Job's friends, right, pointing out stuff, right? When they're full of shit. When they're the ones that aren't dealing with their own stuff, you'll see through it like an X-ray machine, right? And I deal with this all the time when I'm having discussions, particularly if it, in professional circles, when I'm dealing with a lot of academics and a lot of people that have walls of degrees and run think tanks and, or leaders and experts in their fields or whatever around the world, okay? The ones that are real and the ones that are truly great at what they do are the ones that when they make a mistake, admit it. Not only are they willing to teach you, but they're willing to be teachable so that they can learn from you. They're humble, at least humble enough to learn. And then there's the others, right? So often I'll put something up. This has happened on Facebook and LinkedIn and, in person and you name it. And you're having a conversation. And what happens is the people are critical of it, but they never actually address anything that you say or have written or have put forth, right? They're like slippery snakes because that's what they are, okay? They're not going to. They can't address it head on and have an actual conversation with you that will benefit both them and you, because they are in their shadow. They live for and in their shadow. They have become their shadow. They are a shadow of what they could have been or should be, because they are incapable of having an actual dialogue. They're either run by their insecurities and fears, or they're so arrogant and fearful and insecure that they cannot admit they don't know something. And what happens over time is everybody passes them by, but the only way they manage to keep their position and stay in power, right, or remain, with their reputations, is through falsity, deception, intrigue, machination, and plundering others. That's how they maintain their position. They eat others' opportunities. They destroy others' reputations. They demean, and they will do anything they have to do because they're little beasts. They have the nature of a beast. They have the nature of a snake. They're cunning. They're clever. But they are liars. They are false lights. And when you have times like the time that we're in times of crisis, when the chips are down, right? When stuff is hitting the fan, they always show what they really are, because they're exposed in their incompetence, their arrogance, their blindness, their lack of adaptability, their incapability in terms of their skill set to lead, to serve, to come up with good ideas, concepts, or allow others that do to be in a position to even help them. And what happens is you have the kind of situation that you have in the days that we're living right now. They don't want to take responsibility for their own choices and actions. They want you to take responsibility for them. The buck doesn't stop there. It stops with everybody else, because they're too arrogant to admit they're fallible. And when that metastasizes in a crisis, people die. People get hurt. At a nation-state level, the nation-state can fall, can collapse. This is why it is as it is for people, so too it is for nations, because nations are made up of people. It's the same reason why a company falls. Corruption is always present with everybody and everything. To deny that fact is to deny the essential reality that you live in and build your house upon the shifting sands without a foundation, knowing full well, yet fearful of admitting it, yet fearful of the coming consequences of that house, that kingdom, that reality that you've built on the shifting sands without a foundation is going to get wiped away by a tidal wave. Now, anybody that did that, right, that built a real building, right, knowing that that's where they were putting it and that was going to be the consequence, we would say is an idiot, would we not? But yet, we allow people, places, and things to have their foundations on exactly that. We elect leaders who do exactly that. We elect ourselves in our own projections in this country to office. And then when it doesn't turn out the way that we wanted, or it did turn out the way we wanted and the outcomes are bad, we blame them for it because they are a reflection of us. So when you look at your country, brothers and sisters, and you want to know what went wrong, stand in the mirror and say, me. Because all of us play a role in this. All of us are responsible for where the country's at. All of us are responsible for where it will go. Now, if you want to come out of the shadows, everything will fight against you to keep you chained to it. Because that's what a lie does. A lie wants to convince you that you're a slave to it and there's no way out. You'll never be able to get out of the situation that you're in. That's why it's a lie. It's a deception. And it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you stay where you're at as a slave in the shadow, it will create exactly those consequences for you and drive you even further into fear and inaction and paralyze you until you're in a terminal condition. If you want to come out of that, you have to understand you're going to have to fight. The prison is an illusion. It's in your mind. Everything will tell you you cannot leave it. Everything will conspire against you, it would seem, at times, so that you don't try. It is the demon of your shadow that you carry around every day that is chained to you. If you want to be free, you have to understand you already are. God did not create you to be a slave. This country was not created to make slaves of people, even though it did at the beginning enslave people. And the people that enslaved them were as much slaves as the slaves they bought and sold. But you have a system now that purports to be one thing while it is indeed and in fact enslaving you. It has sold you out. And what it is showing you is what you've chosen collectively as a people, which is your shadow. You have chosen your shadow for too long. It is time to walk out of the prison. It is time to fight back. It is time to stand up. It is time to look at yourself in the mirror as you are and ask God to give you the light inside and out to guide you out of it and show you what you truly are and what you truly can be from His perspective. Because the lie will promise you the world and to deliver you to the grave. And if you don't get that by now, you soon will, because of what you're fixing to witness on earth. Yeah, what you're going to witness with your own eyes. Some of you listening to this probably are not going to live through it. I may not live through it. But you know what? I am not going to go out of this world groveling in the dust with my shadow. I'm going to go out a victor. I'm going to have victory here and forever after. I am not going to lay down and die and allow tyranny to take over this country. And our brothers and sisters continue to be persecuted and slaughtered around the world. And we continue to allow corruption to go unabated in this country without a fight. Are you with me? Or are you going to sit with your head between your legs, shaking like a leaf, handing over everything that was promised to you, right? That you were conned out of until there's nothing left but your soul. And that will be the last thing that will be demanded from you. Because if you don't stand up, if we don't rise up together, this nation will surely fall, and you will consign others to it, to the hell and the suffering that it will bring. So you're going to have to ask yourselves, is your pride, your avarice, and your hubris more important than your survival? Because the lie will tell you that is your survival, right? You have to do those things to survive. That's the lie. It's those things that brought you to this place where the consequences are being rendered. And those consequences will not get less, they will only get more. So again, what are you going to choose? Do you want to know the truth and walk out of the shadow, or do you want to remain in a lie and pay the consequences of that choice? Because that is your choice. You could either go the way of truth and walk out of the prison, or you could remain a prisoner by choice and ultimately a casualty in a greater sense than just losing your life. That is what we all are faced with. You see, if you let go of this world, you get the world to come, and guess what? You get this one thrown in for good measure. Just not the way that you might think, but in a way that you can't imagine. That is why the lie wants to keep you enslaved. The lie can't exist without something to feed on. In this case, it's you and your systems that it's co-opted. That's how it works. It is a parasite. The lie cannot exist without the truth. A lie has to have truth to exist, but it fights against it and tries to convince that people that it is the truth when it is a lie. Just like the shadow on the ground is not you, it's your shadow. There's a reason why it's always in the dust of the ground. A lie is not the absence of truth, it is the truth used out of context and for the wrong intent. Now think about that. I hear a lot of people talk about we have no leaders, we have no leaders. Tell me, what does a leader look like? Can you tell me? Because you would think with all the books that have been written on it and all the seminars and all the webinars and all the white papers, right, all the talk about it, we'd have more leaders. Well, you're being shown right now how few you actually have in this country right now. Why do you think that is? Maybe they don't know what leadership is either. A leader has a servant's heart. A leader is will self-sacrifice their own desires, their own comfort, their own good even, for the good of those they lead. They take responsibility for their own actions, and even for the actions of those that are subordinate to them. They give them cover. They teach. they're also always remaining in a place where they can be teachable. If you want to lead, you must learn how to first be a servant. If you don't have a servant's heart, you'll never be a leader. You'll be a fake one. And you'll despise yourself every single day that you have to lead people. And in fact, right, you'll be driven deeper into your shadow, and you'll become everything that you hate, which is exactly what our country has been on the trajectory towards being. Everything it hates. As it is for people, so too it is for nations. Now, I, for one, think that not only can we overcome, but that we will. At what cost is the only question. Because the cost has already been great, much higher than most people are willing to accept to deal with in their own lives. You know, a friend of mine told me, he's like, you're always best when you're working on solutions. You see, the paradox of that is I love working on solutions. I love problem solving. I love, working with others to try to figure out how to make things better. But you know what? I can't do that without my fellow countrymen and my brothers and sisters. It makes my life an existential nightmare getting up and seeing everybody fight. Because this isn't about me, this is about us. All right? I'm not a one-man show here. Right? We have to work together to change this. Just like each one of us have to be willing to see our own stuff, we also have to be willing to work with others. And that takes humility, and it takes an understanding of what it means to be a servant, and what it means to be a true human. Because what you see around you is facsimile. It is simulation. It is artificial. Now think about this. You're living in a world where they're slowly turning absolutely everything over. Your markets are already there. They're already run by artificial intelligence. Everything is being slowly handed over to something built by people that don't give a damn about you and have already been using you. Right? And these people are touted as the most intelligent people on the planet, yet they're building something that they're now bending a knee before that's artificial. What does that tell you? That should tell you the kind of leaders they are. Artificial. It should tell you what their real thinking is like. Artificial. It should tell you that they are false lights. They are artificial. They are false lights because they are merely reflections of the real thing. But they dazzle everybody here with words because most people only want to hear what they want to hear and want to see only what they want to see, and damn the consequences. Well, those consequences always come. And in our form of government, when you elect people, you elect something of yourself, whether you realize it or not. And for 5 decades, I've watched you elect idiots. I've watched you hold up people that are facsimiles of the real as your role models. While people that love this country, that are gifted and care about it and care about you, have been kicked in the teeth, plundered, sacrificed to your counterfeits. So if you want to have this country and you want this country to keep going, you're going to have to step up and take responsibility for your own lives and the highest good You're going to have to look out for the highest good of your neighbors. And if you're not willing to do that, then you can kiss your future goodbye here. And every time you look at your children, and every time that you look at your moms and your dads and your friends and your co-workers, I want you to remember you chose to sacrifice them to your pride, your avarice, and your hubris. You will answer for it, regardless of how much you denied in the here and now. And you will answer for it sooner than later. For those of you that aren't like that, I love you, I support you, I fight for you, but I can't make decisions for you. I need you, and you need me. Let's work together and change the calculus and the direction of this country. Let's make this country something that's worthy of the rest of the world wanting to emulate, instead of acting in such a way that we're pushing them towards an enslavement system to China, which will ultimately take you over if we don't fight together. If you are willing to do that, I'm willing to keep going and fighting for you and with you and step up beside you and take the hits as much as I can, because I've already sacrificed a lot of my comfort and my health and my opportunities to do this. So I hope there's enough of you that are willing to stand up with me in the middle ground, that we can rise together. By the grace of God, in truth and love, that justice and mercy may prevail from humble and contrite hearts that are filled with the courage to do so. God bless you.
Used to far away.